Hello everyone, and welcome to round 2 of the GRENKE Chess Classic. Here we have a game between Magnus Carlsen and Hou Yifan. Now, I only have one photo from this round for now. This is a photo Carlsen here playing against Hou Yifan, making his first move. And it was sent to me by a subscriber. He contacted me over Instagram. His name is Enzo Kaisa. He says he's at the GRENKE Chess Classic at the moment and that he can provide some photos from every round. So I'm very happy he sent it to me, and maybe I will get some official photos. I probably will. I will include them in a video from. I'll probably make more videos from round 2 as there were a lot of interesting games. So I will include it in there. So let's see this game. I did prepare their lifetime record. Also, I will show you for this game, but I will show it to you after the game. So let's see it. Yifan already played a game against Anand. She drew that game with the black pieces. Now again she has black pieces against Magnus Carlsen. So I mean that's what you came for. Bit unfortunate, but Carlsen will also have 5 games with the black pieces and only 4 games with the white pieces. I mean there are 9 rounds. It can't be even. So Carlsen opens with e4, e5, and bishop to c4. He goes for his bishop opening. Knight to f6, d3, c6, queen to e2, and bishop to e7. Knight to f3, d6, c3, knight b to d7, and bishop back to b3. You want to bring it to b3. You don't want to allow any expansion with tempo with b5 and a5, and also black could at some point push d5. And then white would be forced to react as the bishop would be on c4. So bishop to b3, always a useful move. We have castles, and a5 now. d4, a4, attacking the bishop, bishop to c2, and rook to e8, making room for the bishop to come to f8. Then Yifan will push g6 and try and play the bishop to g7. Rook to e1, now bishop to f8, queen to d1, and b5 now. Knight b to d2, queen to c7, knight to f1, g6, and bishop to g5. Bishop to e3, I guess, is also possible with the idea of queen to d2 followed by bishop to h6. But if black goes knight to g4, then again you have to move the bishop, and then black can even push the bishop back, for example, bishop to d2, and it would be pretty much the same position that happened in the game. Only now you have the knight on g4 instead on f6 as happened in the game, which is better. It's hard to say, but probably immediately bishop to g5 is better, as Carlsen decided to play this. So h6 and bishop to d2. We have bishop to g7 and now knight to g3. Knight to b6 and now b3. A captures on b3, a captures on b3, rook captures on a1, queen captures on a1, and now bishop to g4. And here bishop to queen to c1. And now Carlsen has this queen bishop battery attacking that h6 pawn. And here you could play something like king to h7, but then Carlsen will start his attack with knight to h4, probably followed by knight to f5, as this would be a very dangerous knight sacrifice. So Yifan immediately captures it, bishop captures on f3, g captures on f3, and here we have h5. h5, I've seen the interview after the game. Carlsen didn't really agree with this move. Probably king to h7 was better, and after f4, Carlsen said he didn't really know what he wanted here, but you know, he would just play and see what happens. But okay, after g captures on f3, h5, bishop to h6, and here queen to e7. Queen to e7 is a move designed to protect the knight on f6, but you'll understand why, because if black would play something like c5, then after d captures and bishop captures on h6, queen captures and rook captures, white could go for this knight to f5 idea. And now, of course, if you capture, then queen to g5 check, king moves, and queen captures on f6. So this was the idea, protecting the knight on f6. And after f captures, bishop captures, and a lot of attacking ideas here for white. Queen can come to h8, to h6. This rook can come to the a file and then harass black from the queen side. So definitely wouldn't be a very pleasant position for black. So here Yifan goes queen to e7, and now bishop captures on g7. Carlsen also considered playing something like king to h1, but then after this h4 move, then you would you could get knight to f5, but he decided he didn't want to go for this. This would be okay for white, but black doesn't have to play h4 here, so he quickly decided he's not going to do this. So he decided bishop captures on g7, king captures on g7, and now queen to g5. Of course, with the very serious threat of knight to f5 check, the pawn is of course pinned, black will lose the queen and the game. So king to h7, now comes f4, and quickly knight f to d7, Yifan wants to exchange queens. Carlsen of course doesn't mind. Queen captures, rook captures, and now pawn captures on e5. D captures on e5. And here Carlsen plays a move that he says he was extremely happy to make, and Peter Leko praised him for it. He says it's quite a brilliant move, you know, a subtle brilliancy, because most people would probably go rook to a1, and then after e captures on d4, black would get decent counterplay with c5, exchange the pawns in the center, probably an easy game to draw for black. But here Carlsen played rook to d1, and it's obviously it's very difficult to understand why this is such a strong move, because it's extremely hard to find a move for black. Here Yifan played rook to e8, and Carlsen thinks that this rook to e8 might have been not such a great idea, but it's again very hard to find a move for black here. Although simply exchanging and going with the same idea black could have played if the rook was on a1, doesn't seem all that bad for black. But okay, rook to e8, like we said, and now d captures on e5, knight captures on e5, and f4. And now you see the problem. You do have to do something with this knight. If you go back, then you have knights protecting each other. That's never a great idea. You can't move this knight because this knight is hanging, and this knight doesn't really have anywhere to go. Here, after white pushes e5, then this knight is coming to e4, and from there he will be a monster knight controlling all of the central squares. So after f4, knight to g4 was played, and now rook to d6. And here Yifan played rook to e6. And here again, in an interview after the game, Peter Leko suggested that rook to a8 was actually a better idea for black, that kind of forces a draw. Because after rook captures on c6, you have rook to a2 attacking the bishop. Bishop moves, now knight captures on h2. And after you grab the piece, then knight to f3 is check, and now it's a perpetual. If you go king h1, of course this would be checkmate, and if you don't, if you go, for example, to f1, then it would be a perpetual check. Simply knight h2 check, king moves, knight f3 check, king moves, knight h2. If you try to run to the queen side, then you would actually lose the game, because after check you lose the bishop here, and after black plays this h4 move, now it's winning, because the h pawn is simply too powerful. You have to move the knight, and then after captures and rook to d3, there is no stopping the pawn. You would have to sacrifice this knight for the pawn, and then black would easily win. So that was one idea Leko gave after the game. But okay, rook to e6 by Yifan, rook to d8 now, king to g7, and now knight to f1. And here rook to f6. Instead of rook to f6, knight to f6 would have been better, with a double attack on this pawn, and after knight to d2 defending it, the game goes on. Here rook to f6 was played by Yifan, and here h3. This was Carlsen's idea. Knight to h6, and now f5. G captures on f5, knight to g3, threatening knight captures on h5 with a check and the fork on the rook. So you do have to play something here. Here Yifan played rook to g6, pinning the knight. But better yet was something Carlsen suggested after the game. After this move and king to f2, here Yifan played f captures on e4. But Carlsen said after the game that if she played rook to g5, it's very unlikely that there's any progress that Carlsen could make. Simply a great move, defends everything. H4 is coming, so he didn't know what to do here. But she played f captures on e4, and here Carlsen said that he definitely felt that he had a winning game. So knight captures on h5 with check, king h7, and now bishop captures on e4. f5 only move if you don't want to lose the exchange. And here bishop to g2, and again Carlsen says bishop to g2 is an extremely important move because you do want to move the bishop to a nice square. You don't want to move it to a square like f3 because you will still win a pawn, but for example knight to f7, rook to f8, knight to e5, now you have to grab the pawn, but then black will eliminate the bishop, and the bishop is an extremely powerful piece in a position like this. Rook captures, and you would be up a pawn, but it's hard to say now if you could actually win this game. So that's why Carlsen says bishop to g2 here, a very important move. So knight to f7, there's really no better move to play other than this. You could go something like c5, but after rook to b8, again, it's the position is so difficult for black. You can't really move anything. It's hard to find the move. So here Yifan tried knight to f7. She has to activate her pieces. Rook to f8 by Carlsen, and now knight to e5. And here first attack the rook. Rook moves, and now rook captures on f5. So Carlsen won a pawn here, and he managed to keep his strong light square bishop. Knight b to d7, king to e2, king to g7, h4 now, knight to f7, bishop to e4, knight comes to d5, e5, knight to h5 check, king h6, knight to g3, and now rook to e6. And here king to e3. Rook to h5 seems like a scary idea with the bishop slicing here, but after king comes to f8, there's no point in doing this. White doesn't really have anything. So after rook e6, king e3, king g7, now rook f1, king to f8, knight to f5, and here we have knight to g4 check, king f4, knight to f6, bishop to f3, knight to d5 check, bishop captures, pawn captures, and here rook to a1. Now Carlsen will bring his rook all the way either to a7 or a8, depending on what Yifan plays, and then from the back rank he will target the weak pawns here on b5 and d5. King to g8, now rook comes to a8 with check, king h7, rook to a7, pinning the knight, rook to f6 defending, h5, king to g8, rook to d7, and here Yifan played b4, and c captures on b4 was played, and in this position Hou Yifan resigned the game. Although she might not have resigned, but okay, I think she did resign, but she was also very low on clock. So also one thing Carlsen said after the game, that it's a useful thing to play fast, then you have more time in critical moments. So what a brilliant idea. And yeah, before I forget, I said I will show you their lifetime record. So here it is. This is their lifetime record. In classical games, 2 of them played 6 times, and Carlsen won 5 games, and they drew 1 game. So Yifan never defeated Magnus Carlsen, and I believe that's only classical, and including rapid and exhibition, as you can see, it's a result 6-0 for Carlsen. So other than that, they also played a rapid or an exhibition game. It doesn't really say here. So yeah, definitely a nice record for Carlsen, and now we'll see how the tournament goes for Yifan. She now kind of did the worst part. She faced Anand and Carlsen with the black pieces, so now she will get some opportunities with the white pieces as well. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, do check out all the content from GRENKE Chess Classic. You will have all the interviews on their YouTube channel. I believe they will make like a trailer. If you've seen the trailer from round 1, they will make a trailer for every round. So do check it out. I will put it all in the description below. I just don't have it yet, and they didn't release the interviews yet. But as soon as they do, I will add it in the description. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon with another interesting game. Thank you all.